Well, good morning, church. We are in the book of Jude, and we are in the midst of trying to figure out why is Jude telling us about these people who neglect or pervert the grace of our God into sensuality. They have infiltrated the church, and we're now looking at why it's so important not to allow them to infiltrate and influence the church. And he began in verse 5 explaining that. And there's three examples or illustrations from the Old Testament that he's making, and then he's going to apply these to these people that are infiltrating the church. Let's just start reading at verse 5, and I'm going to read down to verse 7. It says, "Now I want to remind you, although you once fully knew it, that Jesus, who saved a people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed those who did not believe. And the angels, who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, he has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. Just as Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding cities, which likewise indulged in sexual immorality and pursued unnatural desires, served as an example by undergoing a punishment of eternal fire." So those are the three examples that he gives. And he calls them to your attention immediately after saying, I'm writing to you that you need to contend for the faith, and you need to contend for the faith against those who would pervert the grace of God. And you're perverting it into sensuality. And when you do that, you deny the master. Now, it should be fairly obvious how these illustrations from the Old Testament are being applied here. But let's look again. If you remember in verse 5, Jesus, or the Lord who saves a people out of the land of Egypt, he's got this people that he has saved. Afterward, he sifts through those who he saved physically and saves those who are continuing to believe. But those who are not continuing to believe, it says he destroyed them. He destroyed them. He pushed them out of the congregation of the people. And so there is this physical salvation from circumstances where he gathers a people together. But in the midst of that gathering people together, those who aren't continuing in their belief, they are destroyed. They're pushed out of the congregation and identified as not really God's people. And then immediately following that, you have, and the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, he is kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. And what is he talking about here? I believe he's talking about Genesis chapter 6, when the angels come down and they're marrying the daughters of men, and they're doing things that are not within their natural authority to do. The realm of the created order, what they were given as created beings to do, they perverted that and started to interact as if they were human beings. And these angels that did that, angels that are created to stand in the presence of God, coming and dwelling in the presence of men, he's kept them in eternal chains and gloomy darkness until the day when final judgment will come. And so there's this man who's saved and who leaves their proper dwelling by not continuing to believe. So they're saved into a relationship with God, but they leave that by not believing. These angels who are supposed to be in the presence of God, seeking the presence of men. And just as Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding cities likewise indulged in sexual immorality and pursued unnatural desire, they serve as an example for undergoing punishment and eternal fire. What was going on here? People that were supposed to be given in marriage, one man, one woman, were were giving themselves over to sexual immorality and even homosexuality, God has judged. Now, what are we supposed to take away from this? We're supposed to take away that in our churches, we have been infiltrated by people who are perverting the grace of God. The grace of God is not given to people to give themselves over in license to sins, trespasses, and to indulge in the desires of the flesh. Grace is not given for that. When people operate in grace and they give themselves over to those things, God judges. God judges his own people whom he saved. He judges angels who he does not save. And he judges the wicked, those that are not saved. And so he judges his own, he judges angels, and he judges the unbeliever. And what we're supposed to be getting from this is that God will not leave people unjudged. So what is the good? What are we supposed to be doing then? Receive the gospel of grace, receive salvation from circumstances and events in our lives, and then operate in that grace, continuing to believe God as he rescues us from sins, sensualities, desires of the flesh, saves us from them, and brings us closer and closer to who he is. And then we escape from that judgment. It's what he said in verse 5, that those people that he had saved out of the land of Egypt, he destroyed because they did not continue in believing. They were not continuously believing God and being rescued from their sins and from the desires of the flesh, the desires of the world, and the temptations of the devil. Church, continue in your faith. God has not just saved you so that you can indulge in whatever you want. He has saved you to purify you. And so be pure. Next Tuesday, we'll start looking into what these people that infiltrated the church are actually doing. Have a good day, and I'll talk to you then.